For anyone new to this series or new to my channel, I want to issue you a warning. This video isn't going to be nice. This is not going to be a friendly critique. None of the items featured in this video are worth your money, worth your attention, but this video is worth your time. The thumbnail is not clickbait. My criticisms may be lobbed at the creators of these items, but the blame falls entirely on Valve and their lack of curation. In this video, I'll be using these items to explain how the winter of 2021, Valve showed just how poor their judgment truly could be. In a previous episode, I praised the summer 2022 case for being essentially the perfect cosmetic case, and I stand by the points I made in that video. It's not easy to design a cosmetic case, especially not one for a game that is complex as TF2. You have 9 classes, dozens of equipped regions, hundreds if not thousands of already existing items, and many thousands of players who will be looking for different things in a cosmetic, especially if you're pulling a slot machine lever to get it. In the era before cases, we had crates. Crates made it so that Valve could essentially put anything in the loot box, assign a drop rate, and call it a day. The community would decide for themselves what an item worth should be. But after they transitioned to the tiered rarity system in the summer of 2015, they made it so much more work for themselves. Now, instead of letting the economy ebb and flow naturally based on supply and demand, they've artificially given certain items greater supply due to the manipulation of the random chance, without building a demand for them. Demand is still determined by community interest and perceived value, so at the end of the day, the incentive to put high quality items at all tiers should still be there. Whether an item is mercenary grade or elite, if it looks good and has an appealing design, there will be an audience for it. However, over the decade of this system being implemented, TF2's cases have been backsliding into pure degeneracy, and Valve's attempt to pander to the Steam community market and trade communities. There was a time where TF2's cases had variety, cosmetics that ranged across all classes, themes, styles, and equipped regions. Taking a look at the first cosmetic case, Gunmetal, we can see the lower tiers dominated by class-specific body cosmetics and multi-class items. As we rose in the ranks, we can see them continue to offer class-specific headwear and mists, so we get to the very top of the pile, where we got 2 all-class headwears that are, frankly, absurdly expensive. And while these items are arguably the least visually appealing of the bunch, their rarity and uniqueness made them noteworthy and special. Which is why you may still see people to this day pointing out someone wearing a potassium bonnet. At one point, these wild and wacky items weren't so common, and owning one was actually a status symbol. Today, I feel like the case design has been flipped on its head for the worse. Being the first of their kind, Gunmetal set the tone for every case to follow. Yes, it had its silly trader bait shit, but it also had variety, and was accessible. You had pop culture references, historically accurate outfits, and items that just looked good and matched the characters they were designed for. It was truly a case with something for everyone. So the fact that within 8 years, this system is degraded to the point where 90% of a cosmetic case is unusable garbage that no one wants to buy speaks to how far Valve has fallen. There's no excuse here. The Gunmetal case was entirely community made, same as every other case we've gotten since then. Ever since 2016, we've gotten 3 cosmetic cases every single year at the exact same times of the year. Summer, Scream Fortress, Smissmas. Summer, Scream Fortress, Smissmas. Summer, Scream Fortress, Smissmas. 24 cases since 2016, and we've currently gotten our first case of 2024. So you have to imagine my shock and surprise when I saw just how awful Smissmas 2021 was, that I immediately felt compelled to make a video documenting this autopsy. But this intro has run on long enough, so I'll simply explain how I'm going to slice up my critiques here. 1. There are 3 primary criteria I have for judging cosmetics: authenticity, versatility, desirability. 2. Authenticity will be represented by the Covert corner, represents faithfulness to the TF2's original art style. 3. Versatility will be represented by the Dead of Night, and refers to an item's ability to match other community-made cosmetics. 4. And finally, desirability is a general approximation of how the community thinks of an item, how well it sells on community marketplaces, how often I see it in-game, and what do I personally think of its design and implementation. It will be represented by the team captain. So, with our bases covered, my bias is clearly stated, let's dive into Valve's most degenerate Smissmas case ever. Starting with the mercenary grade, working our way up to the peaks of failure at the elite grade in alphabetical order. Mercenary grade. First up is the Brain Cane, an all-class cosmetic item, which consists of a strap and a cut-in-half candy cane being lodged with a mercenary's head. The Brain Cane is one of the most boring items ever added to TF2, plain and simple. On its own, this item is so painfully uninteresting that you'd be hard-pressed to notice it. When used for its design purpose, as a one-note joke where you lodge a sharpened candy cane in your favorite hat, it feels like a half measure, a disappointment. Firstly, the projectile isn't even the same one used in the festive Crusader's crossbow. Likely as a flimsy excuse not to cause gameplay confusion, as if the mere concept of this item doesn't cause confusion on its own. Next, This item cannot be unusual, so you can't even use it to double up unusual effects or make something that can't normally be unusual. And lastly, this thing takes up a full item slot for a single joke. This item can't stand on its own merit, and it fails at adding value to your loadout. It's really visually loud outside of winter maps and candy cane themed loadouts, so someone call up McConaughey because the brain cane fails to launch. Number 2 on the list, the Cozy Catchers. Once again, another all-class item that's essentially just a pair of mittens strapped to someone's head. The bitch mittens, as I'll be calling them, are arguably even worse than the brain cane because they do everything the brain cane does, but even worse. I actually introduced this item to a friend of mine, so instead of revising my own segment on this script, I'll be reciting this beautiful tirade made against the Cozy Catchers. So without further ado, here is a philosopher's take on the Cozy Catchers. The Cozy Catchers have no style beyond generic holiday-themed headwear. It takes up the hat equip region, so you have to build your cosmetic set around it, and even then, there are very few items that would mix well with this. It's a gaudy, ugly piece that even the best of unusual effects would struggle to elevate into any realm of desirability, especially if the intent is to sell it. It doesn't even resemble the holiday punch, so you can't even feign synergy there. It is nothing more than a standard holiday filler that you will never see anyone wear beyond the new player unfortunate enough to unbox it. Number 3 is the Elf Defense, a soldier exclusive elf hat that gives it a camo body and a team colored trim. So after opening the video with these 2 heaters of the Brain Cane and Cozy Catchers, you think our first class specific hat would be a little bit more inspired, more focused than just vomiting out a subpar model onto every merc's head. And you'd be wrong. If prior items were boring and infuriating, the Elf Defense is the definition of mediocrity. It is not bad. It was clearly made with some artistic intent, but it's a good effort being wasted on a bad idea. Given that Merc's class-specific elf hats are extremely overdone, and this one is not done particularly well. When designing an item for soldiers specifically, there are so many different angles you could attack it from. You could attack it from his homelessness, his psychotic love for America, raccoons, military excess, his love for explosives. So many different ways to convey personality. But they settled just for giving this elf hat some camo and called it a day. It doesn't really matter if this item is paintable or not, because this item lacks any personality. Number 4 is going to be the Elf Festaburo, an all-class sombrero mixed with a random ugly Christmas sweater design. So nearly halfway through our first tier, and we've only just come upon an item possessing even a modicum of creativity. The Elf Festaburo is one of the best items from this case, and it shouldn't even be in the game. Let me explain. I like this item. It is immensely creative in the most garish and over-the-top fashion possible, which explains why, even though I acknowledge it's awful, it's charming. Charming in the same way the potassium bonnet is charming. It is tacky, but playful in extravagance. Even though only 2 or 3 classes have any loadouts that synergize with it, I feel much more positive about the Elf Festaburo than I do any of the other hats in this case. Number 5 is going to be the Festive Frames, an all-class thing that resembles glasses made out of Christmas lights. Ever since Valve added the Industrial Festivizer in 2010, we've been getting more and more iterations of the lazy Christmas lights cosmetics. It continued to fester in 2013 with the face full of festive, and then the contagion spread to weapons in 2015 with the Festivizer. So, when I saw the Festive Frames released in 2021, I knew we were cooked. This is the least creative gimmick in all of TF2, and it looks the worst. Yeah, eyewear has always struggled to live up to the gray bands, but plenty of glasses have come along that approach it from different angles. The Macho Man adds a mustache and aviators. The 70s Chapio adds a newsboy hat. This adds cringe. Bright, acidic, obnoxiously flashing cringe. I pray this plague ends right here, but I know it won't be the end, so as long as there are lazy cosmetic designers looking for a paycheck. Our 6th mercenary item of the list is going to be the Festive Cover-Up, one of 3 items in this case to receive 0 stars across the board. And it deserves it. When I initially wrote this section, I wanted to declare that this hat is one of the laziest items ever added, especially created for Spy, but I had to stop myself from being hyperbolic and looked a little more thoroughly at Spy's hat cosmetics. And I found some examples of items that I believe took less effort, or weren't as troublesome to model. Things like the Upgrade and Dr. Woe. They're arguably even less effective than the Festive Cover-Up, but they still look vastly better. The Festive Cover-Up is an abominable failure. How it took 2 people to design this item is a mystery to me, because I don't know a single person who likes it. This item is uninspired, miserable, and it lacks personality. Synergy, a single thing that makes it worth existing. I don't even think traders would care if this thing poofed from existence. At most, they'd lose $40 from their backyard value, and for most people, they'd lose a dime. Boo fucking who? Fuck you, FCU. I'm not going to waste preamble describing the gift crafter, because overall, the gift crafter is just a decent item that's pretty much been done dirty by its workshop previews. It doesn't have any styles, Easter eggs, fancy paint regions, or even any cute personalizations to make each class feel unique. It simply exists. It is a mercenary grade hat through and through. A simple idea done well is all you need to make a decent TF2 item, so I guess this one's just underrated. Number 8, the Gnome Dome is a very complex cosmetic. All class with 4 different styles. It has a lot going on, and I think I just need a break from this little bit of improv and get right to it. Like, I'm just going to keep it P. I don't like cardboard cosmetics in TF2. I don't like the King Cardbeard. I don't like the Captain Cardbeard Cutthroat, overpriced dumb fuck item. I don't like any of the Halloween restricted items that are just let's strap some random bullshit to the merc's pelvis, but I respect them. The same goes for the Idiot Box and for the Cardboard Box War Paint. At best, cardboard box items serve as a funny gimmick for players too poor to afford real weapons. At worst, they're a lazy gimmick to design something poorly on purpose. A meme. So, you'd think I hate the Gnome Dome. I do, but it's also one of the best items in this case. After spending well over 20 hours researching and editing this video, I've come to appreciate its shoddily made, nativity play look-at-ass aesthetic, because the Gnome Dome uses those rickety foundations to build a whole ecosystem of possibilities. The least effective style is the one based off Smissmas. It's a stupid fucking tree ripped off a children's coloring book and slapped into the merc's head. Whack as fuck. But as soon as you switch to the yard or classic gnome styles, you have a more decent beard and cone hat in a single cosmetic. Not appealing to me, but it certainly makes it more tolerable. Even if this item is not to your taste, I think you can admit that it gives you a lot of bang for your buck, which is more than we could say for Christmas light glasses or candy canes lodged into the side of your skull. It makes sense why this is 5 times more expensive than any of the other items in this tier. Number 9 is the Mushenka, and the entire description of the item is in its name. A Mushenka. Amazing. Okay. The Mushenka is just a bad idea. If this item was just the furry Ushenka for heavy, then I could accept it as a more below average item. You know, another piece of slop. But at least it has some cohesion with the rest of Heavy's more rugged loadouts. I mean, it even leans in a bit of Heavy's heritage because, Ripley, believe it or not, there are mooses in Russia. There are even real people out there wearing Mushenkas, but none of them look like this. Even the ones based off of cartoon Meeson. The way this item is designed, it literally just looks like Heavy skinned a moose, stitched his pelt into a hat, and then jammed the antlers into it. I guess not to be wasteful. The hat just misses the mark and takes the concept too far. Ironically, wearing this hat just makes Heavy look like an even bigger target instead of a trophy hunter. One caveat though, the sideburns are sexy. And the final item from the mercenary grade is the Ominous Offering, an all-class pet cosmetic which doesn't deserve more than this intro. The Ominous Offering is mediocre as hell, and after better understanding the appeal of the Gnome Dome, I regret featuring it in my best of 2021 video. Genuinely. Voodoo, vor. Genuinely. Voodoo, roar. I apologize for putting this subpar piece of crap over your cardboard magnum opus. This tiny, insignificant, inconspicuous piece of junk doesn't even deserve a consolation prize. I regret ever uttering the words good in reference to this item. I shouldn't have even acknowledged it in the first place. So, with this, I say, back to the dredges of obscurity with you, you little box demon. Moving swiftly along to the next tier of this case, we have the Commando grade items. And the first of the Commando grade is going to be the Elf-Made Bandana. Before I even started with the EMB, there's one thing that continues to bother the living fuck out of me. Why can't TF2 decide which is their preferred spelling of bandana? Is it spelled with 2 N's or 3? Freddy Gibbs spells it with 2. The Burning and Pirate Bandana spell it with 2. So why the fuck does this and the Bruiser's Bandana spell it with 3? I know this is irrelevant to the item itself, but fuck man. These inconsistencies are why I make videos like these in the first place. This lack of consistency takes my autistic ass out of the game entirely. Inconsequential to most people, but pet peeve to others. It just speaks to a lack of attention to detail, and I would really like it if Valve please fixed. As for the item itself, I'm not going to bother with critique, I'm just going to tell you how to fix it. Change the paint region from the bottom of the bandana that is team colored to the top tassels that no one cares about. Stop fucking with team recognition. Add a style that removes the jingling bells. Like, seriously, why did you even bother making this item jingle all the way when they didn't do it for the other items that have more noticeable jiggle bones? And boom, you took your C tier item to like a B tier. Leave my check in the mail, please and thank you. Next item in the commando tier is going to be the Elf Ignition for Pyro. The Elf Ignition is pretty mid overall, but I think it's charming that they give the Pyro these big, wide, team-colored eyes and the choice of a popped collar. It preserves your ability to discern team affiliation, but also lets people paint the actual hat itself consequence-free. Although I think this item is below average, I think it could easily be someone's favorite item, and I can understand why. No further notes. Number 3 of Commando Grade is going to be the Rain Duna Horns, which is an all-class headphones item. And I'm just going to go ahead and spoil the rest of the Commando Grade for you. Commando Grade has the lowest rated items in this entire case. Which is saying something, because we got predominantly fucking garbage in the Mercenary Grade. We've already judged the 2 best items in this tier, and the Rain Duna Horns are the second lowest. I believe somewhat unfairly. The issue I have with these headphones is rooted in the item that they're based off of, the Balloonaphone. On top of both of them suffering from dog-ass names, they both use a really valuable item slot very poorly. And instead of working in the same way as the Deadbeats, where they take up the character's ears, they occupy the hat item slot. So instead of being able to use your gaudy balloon animal themed headphones as an addition to your loadout, it now becomes the focal point of your loadout. I sincerely believe that if you were to swap these from the hat equip region to the ears equip region, we would see the equip rate of these items go dramatically up, which means higher demand, higher prices, and more profit for everybody. An economic virtuous cycle. I just feel sorry for them. I just feel sorry for the Rain Duna Horns. Undeserved bad rep. Number 4 is going to be the Scout exclusive body cosmetic, the Seasonal Employee. And as said previously, we've already judged what I consider to be the best commando grade items from this case. This one is the most popular, and it's just meh. Not mediocre, not mid, just meh. Seriously, I think the only reason people prefer this over the Elf Ignition is because the EI is visually loud and takes up the head region on Pyro, a popular equipped region with loads of variety, but why doesn't this thing get the same treatment? Scout body cosmetics are even more popular and varied, and this thing is also stupid and loud. They didn't even do a particularly good job with the subtler non-holiday style. Double standard from Scout mains, but whatever. Seasonal Spring. This is another situation where I don't like this item so much that it can literally just go fuck itself. Oh, and if you think this is just like me being hyperbolic for the sake of the intro, in the script it reads, fuck this item in particular. And I agree, it doesn't deserve serious critique because it isn't a serious item. The people who made it didn't seriously put much thought into the creation of this item. It exists to be an advertisement for fucking jiggle bones. What does it have going for it otherwise? It has annoying ass clipping, the pay regions just make it even more gaudy and unappealing, and you might as well be strapping a fucking bullseye to your fucking forehead. Fuck the Seasonal Spring and anyone who rides for it. And if you thought that my hatred for this item case is only going to extend to the dumbass, gimmickly bullshit that is the Seasonal Spring or the festive cover-up, you're wrong. The train of thought is even worse. And I fucking hate it. This item is even less deserving of serious critique than the Seasonal Spring. This item was originally going to be on the thumbnail for my 2021 review, but it was going to be bathed in more red than a sunburned ass in Brazil. In the original script, there was a massive, angry tirade against this fucking thing, because I just loathe this item, especially whoever named it. They wasted one of the single best puns for engineer on an item that should have pushed into a fucking trash compactor and never let out. Engineer has genuinely good looking train themed items. The engineer cap, the trencher's tunic, the western wraps, the timeless topper, all better items to lean to Dell's potential train fixation, and most of them aren't even designed for that. Because those items are actually fucking good. Versatile cosmetics that can open themselves up to player expression and creativity. Meanwhile, this item got shot out by some fucking hack, and I resent them for it. Valve. This is Valve's fault. This is the epitome of failed quality control. It may need to be a spy turning into a fucking bright lime green fucking... Listen, this item will not break the game. You will not no clip through the walls wearing this item. but it is such an irreparable eyesore that I wish I could unsee it. There's no saving this item with paint regions, styles, anything. It was a good idea for a prop that was turned into a hat because of greed. It is the bane of my existence. It is the death of artistic integrity, and I fucking hate the train of thought. Die. After going through a minor meltdown over the fucking train of thought of all things, let's move quickly along to Assassin Grade. The first hat out of Assassin Grade is going to be the Hat Chocolate, which is an all-class top hat themed around a fucking mug of cocoa. Even though I feel like the Hat of Chocolate is exactly the same as the Train of Thought, it's not as morally reprehensible. It's just a great name, a good idea for a prop. It was just wasted on making it a cosmetic. Like, it paints well, and that's about it. It stands out in a way that just rubs me the wrong way, and it doesn't really fit in with any loadout, so I can't hate it. It's just doing its own thing. It just doesn't do it particularly well. The Jolly Jester is an all-class Santa hat. It's actually 4 Santa hats stitched together into like a Jester's hat. This hat is just clever, and if there's one thing I can commend the better parts of this case, there's no lack of creative folks making TF2 hats. Combining a Santa hat with a Jester's hat is just chef's kiss. I genuinely like it way more than other hats we've talked about, but it still ain't good. It is better than the Pestering Jester. I mean, it's all class, and it's festive without being garish, but am I wrong for thinking that this should be like the bare minimum for cosmetics in TF2? For being functional and somewhat innovative? I mean, it lacks some of the TF2 zest to truly stick out, but it deserves better than what it got. And the last item in Assassin Grade is going to be the Mary Cone. I've discussed the Mary Cone in previous videos, so I'll just paraphrase my feelings here. This item is a disappointment. It isn't garish, it isn't egregious, it's just totally sterile. No one would care if you swapped this out with the Elf Festaburo, because that item deserves Assassin Grade. This thing is just dickless. It is a dickless waste of code, and the market agrees. That's why this thing is one of the lowest rated Assassin Grade items in the game, and no one cares about it. I felt like I wanted to say something else there, but no, I just really don't fucking like the Mary Cone. Sorry. So, we moved on to the elite grade of this case. And unfortunately for me, there's only one item in the elite grade of this case. And it is the final of the items that I have given 0 out of 5 stars to in every single rating. So this isn't going to be nice. I didn't script for this portion of the video where I describe the item, but if you want to look at the screen right now, you can see for yourself that this item is not worth your time. This item is absolute dog shit. This is the last item you would want from this case. I'm going to be blunt. I don't like the Oh Dear. It's not because it's obnoxiously oversaturated sack of shit that sits on your head. It is not because it is a blatant ripoff of the Exquisite Rack or the Antlers, but all class and somehow even less appealing. It's not because it somehow does the exact same thing as the fucking Brain Cane, but even worse and at a higher price. It's because this item wasn't designed for TF2. It was designed for the TF2 economy. The point of a cosmetic isn't to be some generic canvas for creators to slap unusual effects on at an overinflated price tag. Because that's transparently what this is designed to be. Why else would it have no quip region? Why else would Sky design it so that it could be worse than any other hat? Realistically, it should have the exact same creep region as the Rain Duna horns. It has the exact same failed gimmick as the Brain Cane. And its visual design is just as dog shit as the goddamn Train of Thought. The only thing I haven't compared it to is the fucking Festive Cover-Up. That's just because the Festive Cover-Up is a special kind of fuck-up. It is a unique one-of-one fuck-up. The Oh Dear is a generic, pandering piece of shit. So what's the point? Why does this item exist? This is bait. This is pandering. It pulls from a lineage of goofy joke elite items, and it just mixes it with transparent greed. It is among the least valuable elites on the market, so the masses have rejected it. It can't be unusual, so it's pretty much irrelevant in those circles. It doesn't look good or have any synergies with other items unless someone has a gimp suit spy cosmetic tattooed in their backpack. Probably the festive cover-up. And Valve still tried this same gimmick with an even worse item with the festive rack in 2023. They didn't get the fucking message. So I'm gonna spell it out. Stop pandering to degenerate gamblers. Stop pandering to traders and Stop pandering to traders and market manipulators. Stop with the fucking cringe-ass Smissmas garbage and make cosmetics, not digital assets, for whales. After the moderate success of the yearly cosmetic reviews, I needed something of a palate cleanser. A reminder that I'm capable of making something more structured and refined. Because when I returned to TF2 content creation, I felt like there was something lacking in the space. Everyone wants to theorycraft new weapon rebalances, everyone wants to talk about how bad new maps are, everyone wants to spew out weapon reviews for weapons that haven't changed in 5 years. Everyone knows it, but no one wants to admit it. Hats still fuel the TF2 economy, and the quality of accepted cosmetics has dramatically fluctuated despite the abundance of other quality submissions to pick from. Valve is constantly inserting buggy, poorly designed, lackluster entries and letting better ones go by the wayside because they don't want to establish new relationships in the community. Or at least that's what it seems. Maybe they're tired of being criticized. Maybe TF2 has just been deprioritized to the point where even our slop updates are becoming too taxing for them to manage. We now know that Valve's headcount is much smaller than other companies of Valve's profitability. The question has never been if Valve had enough money to fund the game. It was always, does Valve have the attention to upkeep the game? I'm just bothered so much by this decline in quality because when we look backwards, Valve was so clearly capable of doing more. The community is capable of doing so much more. When Valve disrupted the TF2 economy in 2015, the player base hardly noticed because so much more was going on. War paints, collecting weapons off the ground, massive balance changes. TF2 was evolving and people were reeling from all the changes. There wasn't time to acknowledge just how bad they fundamentally broke the balance of the economy. So now we're all coping with a system designed by people who long stopped caring about the quality control. An item's grade might as well have been Valve trying to slap an invisible price tag on an item they didn't create. In the old days, the cosmetic economy was a meritocracy. The best rose to the top. Today, it is transparently a miserable machine. Workshoppers slave away for years without any compensation, trying to appeal to the silent overlords who will eventually decide whether their work is good enough to exploit. And if they deem it worthy, they ship it out to the hungry masses to keep them placated until they can be bothered to feed them more slop. I don't care about good intentions or assigning blame. Smissmas 2021 was the peak of this degenerate cycle of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. As much as I'd love to see workshoppers get proper payment for their efforts, some efforts weren't worth the money. This has been a very negative and very pessimistic analysis of Smissmas 2021, and I pray everyone has a much higher quality 2024, and I hope to never have to make a case review as spiteful as this ever again. Until then, I forgot to write an outro. Peace.